Welcome to the weekly flagship show for the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. I'm your host, Nathan Legend. Tapped Out Nation, what is going on? And welcome to the Legends Weekly Wrap-Up. I have with me a very special guest, one of our friends here at the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. From A Couple Marks Wrestling Podcast, I have with me Cameron. Cameron, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Legend.
Absolutely. And you guys have some news. You broke through to a different medium of your audio today. Tell us about that.
Which news did we... Oh, the Rush?
iTunes, baby.
Oh, iTunes. Yeah. We're on iTunes now, man. You can find us at A Couple Marks. You got to search it all one word in the search bar. I don't know why, but you do. But yeah, we're in the big time, man. We've hit it.
How else do they find you? How do they find you on the Twitter?
They can find us on Twitter at ACM Wrestling. We are constantly on there. Chris and I both have access, so you may get two different answers to the same question if you ask us at the right time of day.
Absolutely. And you guys do great work on the Facebook Live as well, so pay attention to the Twitter feed and get on that. I got Nick with me as well.
What's going on, brother?
Thanks for joining us, Nick.
Not
too much. I know that you got some stuff to do, but I know you wanted to get on real quick and say a couple things.
Well, man, I know you like to start off the show with a little indie talk, so I wanted to.
I do.
Yeah, so before I bailed out on you, man, I had to get in here and say, hey, dude, we went to a couple shows. Myron and I did on Sunday over in Marietta, Georgia. They had an AWE, which is Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment show. They did that in the afternoon. It was a very unique situation. And then basically they closed the venue, everybody left, and then they brought in and did an Evolve pay-per-view, Evolve 89. You could find AWE show is on WWN Live, and of course Flow Slam covered the Evolve show, so I wanted to give those both a plug because they're still there. And if you watch the video, your boys are prominent. I was the only one at the AWE show, but the Evolve show, we both of us were there, and we were sitting right where they came out, front row seats 1 and 2. When they talk about we were rubbing elbows with guys, that's an understatement. So we saw a bunch of big talents there. But there were a couple guys that we run into that I just wanted to give a couple shout-outs to. Some really cool guys we got to talk to for a while. There's Bullet Club member Chase Owens. We talked to him for a little bit. Then, of course, man, the Gym Nasty Boys might be one of my favorite tag teams. You definitely got to check out White Mike and Timmy Lou Redden. But the Ugly Ducklings, man, stole the show. They wrestled both cards. So they were, they were in a tag match on one and a triple threat tag match on the second one. And honestly, probably the best match on both cards. So So yeah, we did, and then we bumped into Ethan Page, talked to him for a little bit. Hopefully, we're going to get him on the show. His match with ACH, I put out on Twitter, might have been the funniest match I think I've ever seen in person. Which I'll have to tell you that story offline one day. And then of course, we got to give some love. We helped a love connection here of some kind. Kiera Hogan was there, and we got to talk to her, trying to get her some hookups with our buddies over at Rocky Mountain Pro on the Fight app. So maybe someday soon we'll see Kiera Hogan wrestling out in Rocky Mountain Pro on the Fight app. That'd be a huge get. Oh yeah, you cannot get enough of Kiera Hogan wrestling. I will tell you that she's a star. Just she's a star in the making. And I mean, if you haven't seen her work, YouTuber, she's there. She's on YouTube a lot. So
right on.
So, and of course our buddy Chip Day was there, by the way. As he's announced in AWE, which is not a family-friendly show, he is announced as the South's best-kept secret, Chip motherfucking Day. That's his name, and he comes out to the ring. And I was like, all right. So anyway, give us a little bit of love to him. He's go back in the archive, his interviews there. So yeah, I just wanted to give those guys some love and spit some fire to those guys and let them know we appreciated all the hard work on Sunday. So.
Right on. I was actually at the PWV Pro Wrestling Battleground show in St. Paul, and I got to see some familiar faces that I've seen around First Ave or in Minneapolis. I saw the champion Venom. I saw Airwolf, who's a graduate of the Academy Pro Wrestling School up north of the Metro with Ken Anderson and Sean Devare. I got to see Eric Cannon, I got to see Super Thunder Frog. Shout out to Downtown Petey Brown, Heavy Metal Lore, Stonehenge, and Darren Corbin. So it was a great show. It was a lot of fun, and had a good time. So bought some merch and got to see some wrestlers, and that was kind of my weekend. So
and hey, we want to let me throw this in here real quick because you said a key line. We're big fans of indie wrestling here at the show. Obviously, we try to go out to as many shows as we can. One of the things I want to stress, it's one cool thing because the tickets are what? What did you pay? I mean, we paid a little more for the Evolve show, but I mean, I paid $15 so I'd have a chair at the AWE show. It was like $10 if you didn't want a chair and you wanted standing room only. But the point that I'm trying to get to is you're not spending a ton of money on these tickets, man. Go over to a table, support your favorite guy on the show, even if it's just one guy, and buy a shirt, buy a picture, something. So just kind of support those guys and, give them a little extra cash by buying a shirt or something. That's all I wanted to throw in there.
It's a funny story because I walked into the arena and I didn't get charged and I just sat down. Then during the intermission, when I was running the table buying my merch, I asked one of the wrestlers if there was covered tonight. He said, yeah, it's $10. So I went and I paid my $10 because I want to support these guys. And that gentleman actually happened to be Mr. Cody Rice, friend of the show. So I got to see the Husky Heartthrob as well. But absolutely want to support indie wrestling. I pretty much go to a show every weekend if I can, and I never spend more than $10, $15. And it's like going to a movie, except it's in front of you and it's wrestling and it's awesome. And you get to meet some cool people too.
Hey, I'm going to give you a gimmick event I'm going to this week. We have the big event, obviously, the 13th we're going to be at, the Southern Fried Promotion show that we did a whole weekend on. You can go back and listen to those interviews. O'Shea Edwards is money. If you haven't listened to that promo yet, it's freaking money. Yeah. You got to hear it. We had his partner Hawk Thomas on, and then of course JB Enterprises. That's hilarious. Whole interview, totally in total kayfabe. It's awesome. So you got to check it out. But you want to talk about how cheap an event can be. On Saturday, literally days later, they're running another event that we're probably going to go to now. It's called Flip Flop Palooza. The tickets are $10 unless you come in your flip flops and your beach gear. Then it's only they're discounting you down to like $8 to get in.
Perfect.
And I'm like, first come first. You could have a front row seat at the show for $8. I'm like, go buy a freaking shirt and support somebody. Because you know why? You know who's going to have a merch table at that show probably? The Silver Tongue, O'Shea Edwards. So buy a freaking O'Shea shirt. So that's my take. So.
Right on.
So anyway, I'm done on my independent wrestling. It's hashtag support indie wrestling. So
absolutely.
Well, all right, brother. Well, hey, I know you guys are going to knock this show out of the park. I'm going to run and get stuff taken care of. I might jump back on by the end if I can. Okay.
Of course.
Cool.
All right, Cam. Let's get into this Great Balls of Fuego show. And a lot's been said about it. I think, let's get your take on it. I know a little bit about what you like and dislike. What was your overall take on this Great Balls?
So I think you put it out. You put it the best. I think it was probably about a week ago on Twitter when you said 6 weeks ago, this was the laughingstock maybe of wrestling in North America when we figured out that this was going to be the name of the pay-per-view. It's coming this close to SummerSlam, so it almost sounded like it was going to be a filler, kind of one of those filler pay-per-views. And then it knocked it out of the park. I really, really enjoyed it from top to bottom.
I think it overperformed, and I think that despite the name, a lot was done to kind of develop those characters. We did see Enzo get completely murdered by Colin Cassidy.
Yeah.
And as a whole, I thought it delivered very well. Roman and Braun was terrific. Joe and Brock was terrific. The cruiserweights were terrific. The tag match was terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot to like in this show. And it's set up for a very strong Raw the next day, too. So it was very beneficial overall as a card, and I liked it.
Yeah,
I didn't have many complaints.
I don't either. I think, like you said, I'm not mad at any of the finishes, and I think it built the story from every match, built the story that it needed to build.
Yeah, let's go into the ambulance match because this has gotten a lot of buzz.
It has.
Between Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns. Now, very physical match. Roman always delivers. Braun has come on and really probably been the most improved this year, I would say. Last year was Corbin. But the thing of it is, we always talk about, has Roman had a bad match recently? And the answer is pretty much a resounding no. I don't think Braun's had a bad match recently either.
No.
I think for what they ask of him, he's pretty much delivered on everything that he's been asked to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to get any arguments here.
And the biggest thing was the finish. Because a lot of people were saying, oh, Roman's going to go, like, Roman's going to win. He always does. And then he spears himself into the ambulance.
Right.
Which was perfect.
Wow.
And then you had the controversy, so to speak. And you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So Roman basically closes Braun in the ambulance and then drives it, throws the driver out, Grand Theft Auto style, gets in, drives it, and then rams it back into the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people online thought this was legit.
Which is
I guess. Yeah,
it's
perfect. That's what we want. I mean, WWE has done segment. Let's not talk about Stone Cold and Brian Pillman, but
sure,
the thing with people think this is legit, and that's good. That's a good problem to have.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing is, even though Roman lost this match, he still was able to kind of get one over on Braun and take him off TV. So was this booked perfectly?
I think it was. I think it was booked perfectly all the way around because everybody hates Roman. So you give the fans what they want. Well, okay. The fans in the stadiums, they don't like Roman. They boo him unmercifully, right?
Okay.
So you give them the loss that they want Roman to take. But by the end of it, he will almost always stand tall.
Yep.
So they gave the fans what they were looking for and still were able to keep Roman the big guy, the biggest one, the one standing tall at the end of the segment. But what I think a lot of people are sleeping on is when Braun got out of the ambulance, this moment brought Strowman back to being built big again. He walked away from that real life thing when he smashed the ambulance into the back of a trailer. They let him walk away. So that immediately rebuilt Braun, so I think everything was booked perfectly. I can't find a flaw.
I think they're pretty even after Braun threw him in a stretcher off of a platform and then threw him in the ambulance and flipped it.
Yes.
I think they're even at this point. Braun is a megastar. I said a couple days ago, after that match and after the bloody face camera spot, which was perfect,
beautiful,
he might be over forever after this.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he can do anything bad. Right? I think when Roman got in the ambulance, I think it was like I'll see Randy's arson out of nowhere and raise you 3rd-degree murder.
Right. And the fact that Angle had this distraught look.
Right.
And the appearance of Jordan Grace, shout out to her in the background.
Yes.
Perfect segment. Perfect segment after a great match. Loved it.
Yep.
Let's move on. Lesnar and Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
So this match, people were very concerned. Oh, is Brock going to squash Samoa Joe in 10 seconds? He's going to F5 him and then it's going to be it? Which, ridiculous. They spent weeks building this up. They had Heyman get choked out on Raw.
They did.
I doubt they would do this. They did not. Joe looked like the opportunistic asshole who would do anything to win, but he did not look like a chicken shit heel. He didn't look like a Miz or, someone similar like an old school, like a Flair, do anything to win, dirtiest player in the game.
Sure.
Brock eventually retained.
Mm-hmm.
He suplexed the shit out of Samoa Joe. I think it was 6.
6, yeah.
And then an F5 to win. But Brock sold this throughout. Brock got put through a table.
Yep.
That coquina clutch too, like Brock sold that.
Oh yeah.
As good as he could have.
Yeah.
And the joke is, well, he used to get choked out in MMA. It's training for UFC, so of course he's going to be able to do that. Did they do everything they could have to protect Joe and make, because after the match, Joe looked pissed off. He did not look spent like he just got beat. He looked angry. Yeah. How did this grab you?
So I thought going into this, this story was booked awesome. Yeah. I loved everything about this. I've loved everything about the main event since Joe has been called up. I think Joe's been a nice shot in the arm that Raw has been looking for, especially with those 6 to 7 guys in the main event spot. And I was all in on this match. I thought it was really good. I had a hard time coming around on how quick the finish was. Not that I was mad that Brock won. I wanted Brock to win because I think they're building for something really awesome. And so I was good with Brock winning. I kind of needed to be talked down from the finish. And Chris, my co-host, talked me down from it. And he said they're building Lesnar like they're building Orton. All it takes is one, and it can come out of nowhere. And when I look at it through that lens, it makes a lot more sense now.
Well, the other thing is that a finisher finished a guy.
Sure.
And people like to complain, Ziggler does 20 super kicks and a zigzag and a Fameasser and still putting one down. F5 put a guy down.
It did.
So let's give him a little credit for doing that.
Sure, and especially on a pay-per-view where, that's why you always guess how many finishers are going to be in this pay-per-view because everybody always kicks out of at least one or two, depending on what it is. So it was nice. It was refreshing to see a one-finisher finish.
Yeah. The other thing I want to discuss before we move on, Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks.
Yes.
Now, this match, I thought, probably Alexa's best match she's had.
Yes.
At least on the main roster.
Yeah.
And I didn't think she was all that great in NXT, to be honest. But apparently this was not supposed to go this way. It was changed at the last second. Sasha was supposed to eat a pin and then move on. It was going to be Alexa and Nia, which I would have been fine with, but sure. I think it actually went for the better to have Vince get a wild hair up his ass and at the last second change of booking, which he's been known to do over the years. Sure. How did this grab you?
Really well. I'm a big fan of the way they're booking Neville and Alexa, where they're no longer, as you said before, heels that just want to be dirty for the sake of being dirty. Neville and Alexa will take losses to keep the belt. And then they'll do whatever they need to do to keep the belt when they need to win.
Kind of like Eddie Guerrero-ish almost.
Exactly. It's a lot in the Eddie Guerrero vein. I think that's a great example. They're smart heels. They're not just dumb heels that will cheat for whatever reason. They're smart. They're calculated. And so I was okay with that. And to the same point, I honestly think this may have been Sasha's best match on the main card too. I think this was the smoothest she's looked in a long, long time. I was very excited to see that because she's been in kind of a slump lately. Even in the ring, it's just something's kind of looked off. She looks super smooth.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is, I would have been fine with Nia Jax and Alexa. They'll probably hold off on that. We'll come back to it, but it was a good match, and I like the way it went on Raw the next night. Let's get into that Raw because the one segment I want to point out in particular was. So you had Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle in the ring, and they built this up as, they're in the ring for the first time in a long time. Okay. Then you had Roman Reigns come out.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like this. No. I do.
Yes.
It's his yard. Let's not forget.
Uh-huh.
Then you had Samoa Joe come out. And you said it the best, I think, on your Facebook Live feed earlier. And I want you to go into a little bit about why this worked so well. What was the one thing that was true about everything that was said?
Yeah, everybody was right. And that's when the best segments happen, is when whoever's holding the mic is correct. Lesnar was right. I beat Joe. Joe was right. Lesnar didn't beat Joe. Lesnar escaped Joe. Joe was right in saying Roman's never beat me. Roman was right in saying that Joe lost to Lesnar, so he needs to get in the back of the line. And then Joe says, well, you're talking pretty big for somebody who got beat down by Braun Strowman, to which Roman says, okay, please find Braun because he's not here right now.
Yep.
And everybody was right. It was wonderful. It was beautiful. And some of those moments even looked kind of shoot. You know, it looked like Samoa Joe kind of said something that got under Lesnar's skin, not in a mean way, but he knew if he pushed that button, he could get that reaction that moment may have needed. Or Brock's just a really great actor, and either one's good. Like, it doesn't really matter what the answer is. It was perfect. The segment was great.
The other thing was you had a moment where Brock took the mic. Whenever Brock takes the mic, people immediately get very excited, and with good reason. Because he basically told Roman Reigns, and you might get, this may have been the voice of the internet coming out a little bit, but he told Roman Reigns, you don't deserve shit.
Yeah.
To the crowd, love this. Heyman gasping, Kurt Angle's priceless fit. Is Kurt Angle the best actor on the roster?
Boy, he's got to be up there, right?
He's priceless all the time.
He is. His little facial recognitions just make stuff.
He got the best distraught reaction ever. Like, booking him as GM was money. But
it really was.
Let's talk about where the women's division went, because you had a tag match booked on this edition of Monday Night Raw, and it basically was, so you had Sasha and Bayley, and then you had Alexa and Nia. Yeah. Okay. Now, Alexa's a champ. She's booked in a tag match. What are we all afraid of?
Right.
Alexa eating the pin. And she did.
Yep.
From Bayley.
Yeah.
Now, they this was okay. I mean, it's going to happen. The trope that we go to on this show is if you get booked in a tag match and you're a singles champ, you're eating the pin.
Yes.
That's the way it goes.
It is.
Now, the other thing was people got kind of unhappy because Bayley got a win. What's wrong with Bayley getting a win if Alexa doesn't lose the belt? I don't like champs eating pins, but has Bayley gotten to the point where we don't want to see her win?
You know, that's a good question. It's weird where Bayley is right now, because she's one of those like forever pops right now, where it doesn't matter where you are in the country. I think she's just always going to get cheered when she comes out. But, you know, the internet wrestling community or whoever just seems to not be in on her right now. And, you know, I think for good reason. I think she needs to take a step away and let somebody else fill that slot, like a Nia, and give Bayley some time away from the main roster, or from the main event spot, so that when she is brought back, it's refreshing and it's different and it's something that the fans can wrap their head around. It's not the same thing every week.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, you had Bayley basically get the shaft, no pun intended, with this kendo stick on a pole match. It went poorly. The segment before it on TV went poorly.
Yeah.
So people were upset
at
Alexa for some reason, because she booked it, I guess. And then yesterday, Bayley squeaked out a win. Oh my God, Bayley won. It's like, why is Bayley winning? We can't have her winning. It's like, I don't think she can win at this point. I think she needs to reboot something or get an angle with someone else. Yeah,
she came up superhero. You know what? And I don't. You know, the term Chris and I use is the superhero booking, which is what a lot of people use. They gave her that, I think, maybe too early.
Yeah.
Coming onto the main roster, I'm good with her having it. I just think they gave it to her too early.
Yeah. The other thing is, you know, she lost that kendo stick in a pole match. You know, one of the things we love Rocky Mountain Pro, one of the rules they have when we watch them on the Fight app is if you are the champion and you lose by DQ by way of countout, you lose the belt.
Great call.
That's one of the rules they have. And this takes away a little bit of their booking opportunity, but it makes more sense. It does. Would this have worked better last night? I mean, I like the finish, but would this have worked better? Not necessarily to have Alexa lose, but I mean, just to kind of be a different option.
Yeah, it would have been a much different option, and I think things like that allow you to play with characters in a different way. You know, like when Alexa's character walks in, if she knows she can lose by DQ and keep the belt, she's probably going to take the DQ loss if she thinks she's going to lose, is the mindset they portray her, and she's a calculated one like that. Where if you put her in a scenario like that where it doesn't matter if you get DQ'd, you still lose, now all of a sudden you have to build her differently. She has to be able to come up with something that is in the cards for her to do and still keep the belt. She's got to go try and win now. I would love something like that because I think it allows the writers and the wrestlers to develop their characters a little bit differently. Give them something, tweak it.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the Hardys and the club and what happened after that.
So I made a point early on the Facebook Live. The thing that stuck out to me the most about this segment was they let Jeff start. And when they let him start it, they let him hit the phrase, classify ourselves as obsolete. Because that's a really big phrase in the broken world. And when Crowd yelled obsolete with Jeff, they immediately knew, okay, this crowd's locked in. And then you give it to Matt and you just go, here, Matt, have fun. Use all the words you want to use. Don't use all of them. Use most of the words you want to use.
Matt Hardy does have a lot of words.
He does have a lot of words, but they're all hot button words and he knew how to use them. I thought that was really good. I thought the club coming out makes sense because they said they're not done making magic. The club need to come back to some sort of relevancy. This is a good spot to make them do it because they did get a win over Matt and Jeff, which then gets lost in the shuffle based on the Revival coming out after that and just picking Matt and Jeff apart. But again, it's got to be Matt and Jeff taking all of these losses to where they finally break. And I think having the Revival and the club in the middle of this is perfect for those two tags.
Well, basically the Hardys are Teflon at this point.
Oh, for sure.
And everyone wants them to lose. It's weird. They're baby faces and we all love them, but we all know what's working for us. So beat the shit out of the Hardys. And they have gotten the shit beat out of them.
They have.
Whenever they wrestle Sheamus and Cesaro, they lose a tooth or Matt got busted open.
Oh, yeah.
At Great Balls of Fire. People are actually into that, not because they want to see them go through physical harm, but because they want to see their characters go through physical harm.
Yes.
To become what we all know is going to eventually come. And how much fun do you think Vince is having with I'm going to do this? And he wants to deprive the fans just enough so that when it does happen, hopefully at Tables, Ladders, and Chairs pay-per-view, I know it's a long ways away, but I wanted to be there because I'll be there.
Sure.
That's kind of the attitude right now is everyone loves the Hardys. We always have. Sure. We grew up with them. They're back. I still can't believe they're back.
I can't either.
And now it's we want to see them lose and get really just almost, well, I hate using the term buried, but we want to see them lose their ass to the point where we get what we want.
Yeah, it was weird. We were watching it was one of the matches or something like that. And it was a Sheamus Cesaro Hardys match. And it was when, you know what it was? It was when Cesaro and Sheamus flipped on the Hardys on Raw and just went ape and just beat the tar out of them to kind of start this whole storyline. And Cesaro threw Matt's head into the steel post 5 times in a row. And Chris and I are both they're going to the head. They're going to the head. They're going to the head. And it was wait a minute. Why are we getting excited about some guy having his head thrown into a steel post?
Right.
But it's one of those weird worlds that as wrestling fans, we get to live in a world where we can cheer for somebody to get the tar kicked out of them. And it's okay.
Yeah.
So it's the beauty of being a wrestling fan.
And it's the beauty of the weird broken gimmick.
Exactly.
Honestly, it's one of the strangest gimmicks I've seen. Just what they've done with it, like total nonstop deletion, was one of the weirdest things I've seen.
It really was.
Definitely the weirdest wrestling thing that I've seen.
100%.
And I think that's part of the broken brilliance, so to speak. I want to move into this SmackDown Live show tonight, or last night, if you're listening. And AJ Styles is the new United States champion. Now, this did not happen on TV or at a pay-per-view. This happened at Madison Square Garden in what would technically be called a house show.
Yeah.
It's probably the biggest house there could possibly be for a title change. Do you like this move?
I do. I like every now and then just throwing a wrench somewhere. Why not? And Triple H said it when they had Balor drop the belt to Joe in NXT. He said, you got to show up to the live shows because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I tend to agree with that because when people know you'll only see the title change on a pay-per-view, then you flip a title on a Monday or Tuesday night and it goes, oh, well, now I have to watch the TV shows. And then you get complacent with that and you flip one at a house show and now people are like, wait a minute. I have to go to the house shows now, and that's how you gain some traction for the next 3 to 5 months where it's still fresh in people's heads.
Kevin Owens is still the face of America, but how well did he walk the line of looking kind of disappointed and sad that he no longer has the United States Championship? But also, Kevin Owens is a fucking asshole, and we hate him, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How well did he walk that line between those two?
It's Kevin Owens is a weird character, man. I go back and forth on him. I enjoy him at times, and then at other times I kind of get a little stale on him. But I thought he did a pretty good job because he came out during SmackDown Live and just kind of grabbed a mic and yelled at everybody. Right, like it was almost like if you were in the vicinity of Kevin Owens, you were going to get yelled at for something. And I think that is a good part of his character where when he's mad or upset, everybody in the room is going to know it.
Yeah. He plays people's buttons or pushes people's buttons around and plays his character so perfectly.
Yeah.
To me, I think he's one of the best out there. But you had an open challenge from AJ Styles. Everyone loves AJ Styles. I'm a fan.
Sure.
And then you had John Cena come out. The original open challenge.
The OG open challenger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was it. It makes sense that he would be the first one to come out, especially with the history that those two have. Which I thought it was hilarious in the locker room moment later on in the night before the tag. That AJ was like, "Don't think I didn't forget that you took a belt from me." And I looked at Chris and I was like, are we going to forget the fact that he turned on John in the middle of a ring and proceeded to beat the snot out of him for like 6 weeks?
Beat up John Cena.
Yeah, that's the part we're going to forget about, but we're going to remember when Cena took the belt. Okay, that's fine. Continuity, we're good.
Right, because we don't want anyone to get down on AJ at all.
Right, yeah, no.
So let's not bring up something that happened a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's fine.
Right. No, that was before that. But anyway, we have a short memory as a fan base.
We do. We forget things easily, which is good for the writers sometime.
Dillinger faced Jinder Mahal tonight.
Yeah.
Love Dillinger. Love seeing him on TV.
Yes.
Did you think for a second that Dillinger was going to get a win here? Because this was not a title match.
No, absolutely not.
No.
And again, going back to what you said, for whatever reason, I thought Jinder was going to win. And normally you look at this and you go, it's a non-title match. There's a pay-per-view coming up. We don't have any reason or rhyme as to why it's Dillinger. Dillinger's totally going to win in a roll-up when Jinder's pumping the crowd. And I was like, no, like they're just going to let Jinder destroy Ty, and Ty's going to sell him, and it's going to look good. And that's exactly what happened. I loved the spot for Ty, even though he only got like 6 punches in the whole time. I thought he sold well. I thought he did what he needed to do.
I think Ty is so loved and everyone's so into him that let's turn the heat up on Jinder. It's pretty high already, but.
And you would assume Ty to be one of those guys that's going to answer the U.S. Open Challenge in the next couple of weeks. He'd be on my short list of people just to throw out there. Because, again, the fans love him. And to be honest with you, in a wrestling match, who wouldn't want to see Ty and AJ go for 12 minutes in the ring? Like, sign me up.
I agree.
I'd love to see that.
Now, you had a little bit of a weird thing that happened tonight in the women's division. And I don't want to grandstand too much about the women's division, what I would do differently. But we found out Naomi will not defend her championship at the upcoming Battleground pay-per-view. You had basically a tag match tonight between Thelma and Louise, Becky Lynch and Charlotte, right?
Yes.
And then you had Natty and Tamina, Team Catsuit, right?
Team Catsuit.
Team Thick. That's the new Team Thick, by the way. It's Tamina and Natty. So
gotcha. That makes sense.
But then, so they're going to have a number one contenders match at Battleground, and it's going to be those four with Carmella. Is that right?
Lana.
Yeah. Of course Lana's going to be there.
Right.
So tonight, or last night, you had Lana kind of interrupt, so to speak, and then you had Charlotte take a pin from Tamina, which people did not like.
No.
People hated that. Apparently Charlotte should never, ever lose, ever, even though she doesn't have the belt right now.
Yeah.
What do you make of where this is going and the fact that we're not going to see a women's championship match at Battleground? Do you think it has anything – and do you think it has something to do with that Money in the Bank contract?
So it's weird because in the segment leading up to that where they were backstage with Shane, and afterwards Carmella shows up, and Shane says, I know you could cash in this Money in the Bank at any time.
Right.
I didn't think those were the rules. I thought it had to be in the ring for Money in the Bank. So that's an interesting little thing that I don't know how many people caught on to.
The rules don't matter too much.
Yeah, it's like this is like whose line is it anyway? Like made up. Rules don't matter.
Right.
I think that I'm going to try and answer this really quickly because, like you, I can also go off on a tangent about the women's division right now.
Sure.
So I'll say I'm upset that Naomi's not defending at a pay-per-view. I think I lean that if you hold the title, you should defend it at least every pay-per-view. That's just how I think, good, bad, or indifferent. I think they're protecting Naomi for something, and I don't know if it's a random cash-in or what it is. I don't know.
That was my next question, actually. Do you think it'll happen on SmackDown?
Gosh, I think Carmella should hold it for a little while. They need to let these 30 days roll in with the Ellsworth suspension and play that storyline a little bit more before she cashes in. Because she's always wanted Ellsworth at her side. So it stands to reason that she wouldn't cash in until Ellsworth is there to help her win.
Yeah.
So at least for the next month, I would like her to keep it. It would make sense if she did. But I don't know now where it is. I mean, what do you think? Where do you think she could cash in?
I don't know. Well, she gets 12 months to hold it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do. I think cash-ins either work the best if it's the night after a pay-per-view, or if we like almost forget about it almost.
Sure.
If it's like, oh shit, so-and-so has that. Like, it's like, oh my God, he's doing it now. Like, that's when it works the best. I don't quite know when they're going to do that. The reason being is like, they keep mentioning Ellsworth. Ellsworth keeps tweeting, and it's like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
That's interesting. And now there are like weird rumblings coming out that this was a way to write off Ellsworth for good. Like he's just not coming back after his suspension.
Of course.
That's, and I, again, you read like one or two of those things and you go, all right, I'll entertain the idea, but I don't believe yet.
Jericho also said he's never coming back. Exactly. He said that a dozen times.
Exactly. So, you read that, you go, if you're right, good for you. I'm okay with the heel team picking up the win here. I was okay with it. They got the numbers game. It's a numbers game thing. If you have the numbers game, you generally win. They had it, they won. Why are we upset?
Well, it's a false tag. Tamina hit her with a super kick.
Those are the best kind of tags.
Sure.
When the other person doesn't see it, those are brilliant. I love those.
Yeah. We're all high on Charlotte. We all love her. But, you're not going to win them all.
Sure. And if Becky would have taken the super kick, those same people would have been like, well, Becky shouldn't be getting pinned. It's like, well, one of them's got to get pinned. It's a tag match.
It's funny because people will put a lot of stock into like a Becky Lynch or a Charlotte eating a pin and losing. But then 2 weeks later, it's like, we don't care anymore.
Sure.
Everybody cares so much for a day, and then we're on to the next thing.
Yes.
Like the Punjabi prison match coming up at Battleground between Orton and Jinder.
It's music.
No Orton last night. No Orton.
No Orton.
0.
Yeah, which, I'm okay with that. That didn't bother me too much. They didn't really need him, so why have him?
Yeah.
But yeah, hearing the words Punjabi prison is music to my ears. I am so excited for this to come back.
Oh, God. I hope they pull it off. I hope they pull it off.
Here's the thing. Here's why I'm so excited for this to come back. I hope they don't pull it off. I hope it's an absolute dumpster fire.
So you hope it's like another House of Horrors match?
That would be beautiful. It would warm my soul if this thing just went up in flames. Maybe literally. Light it on fire. Let's try that.
Oh, okay. So we're getting a little ECW with it.
Punjabi prison on fire match. Yeah, why not?
Sure. The last thing I want to touch on SmackDown was you had, two things.
Okay.
The Fashion Files.
Yes.
The Walker, Texas Ranger Fashion Files.
I loved it.
Great. Fantastic. They come out in cowboy garb, riding a wooden horse.
Yes.
They're still trying to find out who wronged them.
Yes.
They can't find out yet. Of course, it's a crime show, right? They're cops.
It is.
And then you had the Hype Bros.
Yeah.
So immediately, as a fan of both of those tag teams, it's like, oh no, they're going to pit them against each other. Yeah. Didn't seem like they did it tonight. They're playing this kind of Mojo turned on Ryder in that battle royal, and Mojo's like, wait a minute, bro, it's a battle royal.
Yeah.
There's no turning.
Yeah.
They're still a team, but are they? So I don't know. Do you think the Hype Bros are getting axed? Do you think they're going to push one of them?
Yes.
And his name is?
Mojo Rawley.
Yep, bingo.
And a lot of people are like, well, this could be a push for Zach. My argument is Mojo has a higher upside than Zach. Yep. I've seen Zach as a singles competitor, and he's barely an IC title holder.
Ooh, okay. All right.
At his peak, at his ceiling, Mojo has a higher ceiling than Zach does.
Yeah, he does now.
I can flip Mojo and make him a heel that could hold the big title.
I think Zach's been too much, like injury-wise and poor angle-wise, getting thrown off of in a wheelchair. Like, it's hard for people to be mad at him because it's like, oh man, it's almost like Ziggler.
Yeah.
Ziggler doesn't really work as a heel because people are like, man, you could have been the guy around here, and his shitty attitude basically got in the way. But for that reason, I agree. It's going to be Mojo. They're going to do something with it. Fashion Files, I think, is the most consistent segment on both main roster shows, TV-wise.
Yes. Sure.
It's perfect.
It really is.
It has the right amount of these guys are still wrestlers, and they're still pretty good, but it's goofy. It's just enough level of, like, this is ridiculous to the point where it's like, why am I laughing at this? Like, every week it's like, I don't know why this works. It's so borderline corny, but not. Yeah. And I think it's because of Breeze and Fandango. What do you think? Every week it shouldn't work, and it does. Why does it work? Because it's their characters. Because I think they haven't been written to be cared about for so long that when they finally just go off the rails as stupid and ridiculous, people buy into it because they're like, oh yeah, okay, this actually makes sense.
And with their characters, it makes sense. Like, at the end of this segment, if I would have told you, Nate, you are going to care a little bit about a grown man having a wooden horse stolen from him right under his nose, you would go, there's no freaking way you can make me do that. Yeah. And then by the end of the segment, you're going, who would steal this guy's horse from him like that? That's messed up.
If I was in a production meeting reading this on paper, I'd say, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this is insane. But next week, we're all super excited for the ghost aliens.
Oh my gosh!
The Fashion X Files. The truth is H. Is that what it was?
The truth is not H, or the truth is H. One of the two.
And clearly, Breeze is going to be dressed up as Agent Scully.
Yes.
So we'll get that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking forward to the most on SmackDown. I can't believe it. But they made this work, and it every single time they make it work.
Because every single time is different.
Yeah.
They're in black and white. Breeze is dressed up as a janitor. Then all of a sudden they're on a beach in Miami. Now they're cowboys, and the next week they're going to be hunting ghost aliens. Like, it changes, and that's what holds people's attention.
Yeah.
It's stupid, and it's brilliant at the same time.
Yeah, I can't believe it. And I still want to see them wrestle, too.
Oh, sure.
I still want to see them wrestle. They can both work. I think Breeze is a little stronger, but it doesn't matter. Like,
I can agree with that.
It gives them something to do while, we get the Usos and New Day and whatnot. So
yeah, I want to see Breezango have a title run. I think they're putting in their best work, and somewhere down the line, I'd like for them to at least get it for a little while, or however long they feel like they can hold it for.
How much are you looking forward to the Mae Young Classic?
So I am super pumped about the Mae Young Classic. I think the more you hear these names roll in, upsetting news today, Nixon Newell went down with an ACL tear, so she's out.
Oh, I see.
She was an early odds-on favorite to win the Mae Young Classic. They're really high on her coming out of What Culture. Yeah. But man, this field that they're putting together, and I predicted two things, and this is long-term booking, and I'm not saying I'm the only one doing this, but when I heard the Mae Young Classic, I thought two things: all women's Royal Rumble, women's tag team division. And I've been thinking about those things since before the Mae Young Classic was announced, but as soon as they announced it, I was like, man, they're going to get there. In a year and a half, there's going to be an all-women's pay-per-view. And in 2 years, there's going to be a women's tag division. And next year, they might do an all-women's Royal Rumble match.
Yeah.
At the Rumble pay-per-view. So I think they're going to lay a foundation for so many great things. And they're bringing in the right talent to do it, which is also really exciting to see.
By the way, how confirmed for this tournament is Jordynne Grace after having seen her backstage on camera at a pay-per-view?
Man, you would hope she's going to be there, right?
Absolutely. I mean, she could wreck so much of this tournament in a good way.
Yeah.
We need to have that.
I think so. I would love to see her. I hope she's one of them. I don't know how many spots they've filled yet. I can't remember what the last count was. But man, I love where they're going with it. What about you? What are you thinking on it?
I don't know. She's my favorite going into it for sure. Her or Vanessa Bourne from NXT, formerly Daniel Camella.
Yes.
So I'm excited. Are you going to be going to it?
No. So we went to buy tickets because it's just right up the road from us. And the tickets both days sold out in 5 minutes.
Wow. 5 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either. And next year,
that's good news too.
Yeah, that's great news. And next year, they're already sniffing around for a tag team tournament.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Do you think this was one of those? Okay, so last year they had the Cruiserweight Classic.
Yeah.
Or last summer.
Yeah.
And that was well received. They got 205 Live. They still need to work on it a little bit.
Sure.
Do you think speculation would say if this Mae Young Classic goes over pretty well, do you think they toy with the idea of having a women's show on the network?
I absolutely think they toy with the idea, and I'm terrified. because of how I see them doing 205.
Yeah.
Because all I can see is a roster of 10 to 16 women on a network TV show that will never be able to wrestle on the main roster against main roster women. And that absolutely terrifies me because these women need to be on the main roster. They need to be able to wrestle everybody.
What if they keep 205 where it's at and they put on this women's show, this women's wrestling brand after NXT like they did with the Cruiserweight Classic?
That would be interesting. I'm all in on the idea of an all women's weekly television show for the WWE. You don't have to sell me on that. I'm buying. I'm just afraid of how they're going to do it and how much they're going to be pigeonholed, what they will and won't be able to do. That's the only thing I'm worried about is how they'd structure it. The idea, I love.
Are you on board with Jim Ross and Lita doing the commentary?
Yes, I am. I'm on board anytime Jim Ross is on commentary.
Absolutely.
And I think that, and a lot of people give Lita a rough time because of, her doing the pre-shows on the pay-per-views, all valid arguments to make about Lita being on television. But I think she's reading off of a prompter a lot. And I think being around calling wrestling, I think that will ease her. And name me a better wingman than Jim Ross.
Right.
So I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt. I would have liked it to have been her, maybe Trish Stratus.
Trish, I think she's got a young infant at home.
Yeah, she does. But those were the names that came off. Like if it wasn't one of those two, maybe you bring down Mickey to call it, or just somebody a very relevant women's wrestler that's retired. I would have liked to have seen them, but I'm glad they got Lita.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've kind of reached the end of our journey tonight on the Legends Weekly wrap-up. Give me your biggest thing that you're looking forward to this coming week.
This coming week,
whether it's a booking or a show or
I tell you what,
feud.
I'll give you two things that are holding my interest the most, and it's two outside of the easy ones. Like I can say Brock and Braun, and that's too easy.
Right.
The buildup of Cass and Big Show, because every big guy has to go through Big Show and beat him to give him relevancy in his singles career, which makes sense. That's what Show wants to do. Love him for it. And then also the Titus brand and where that's going to go. I really like those segments with him.
Absolutely.
So I would say under the radar things, those two would be the two things that I continuously look forward to.
Absolutely.
How about you?
Cam, I got to say, Fashion Files, of course.
Obviously.
And I'm also looking forward to what's going to happen with the Hype Bros.
True.
What's going to happen with the Hype Bros? We have a feeling Mojo is going to get pushed in the direction of being more prominent on SmackDown. I don't know,
man. It is in freaking spades with Mojo if they pull the trigger. I'm all in on him being a heel, and it's going to be incredible.
Okay. I'm a big Mojo guy, so I'm excited.
But think about all the stuff they have to work with. He's a former football player. He was the youngest person to ever graduate the master's degree from Maryland, so he's smarter than everybody.
Yep.
It's all there. He's bigger than everybody. He's smarter than everybody. He can outthink everybody. He's a freak athlete. He's a decent wrestler that can only get better.
Yeah, he's strong as fuck.
Yeah, he's gender but American.
Triple H is a big fan of Mojo too, so we got that going for us.
That's a big thing. He should be. There's so much there in Mojo.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, Cam. Appreciate you coming on the show. Hope to have you back at some point.
Yes.
You can reach the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com is how you get a hold of us. You can email us your questions or suggestions for the show, what you want to hear us cover, what you want to hear us talk about. You can contact us on Twitter @TappedOutPod. That's @TappedOutPod. You can reach me on Twitter. I typically tweet probably too much, and then
no, you are a top 5 Twitter follow of all time. I will plug you. It is at Littman316. Stop what you are doing, log on to Twitter, and follow this man.
Appreciate that. It's like Hitman with an L. As always, legends never die. Our website has all of our links to downloads, our affiliates. That is tappedOutWrestlingPodcast.com. There you can find the Fight app. So we're big fans of the Fight app. And what it is, it's an incredible free app that you can download to your smartphone or your tablet device. You can watch all the combat sports. You can watch pro wrestling. You can watch grappling. You can watch MMA, boxing, striking arts. That is how I watch Ring of Honor. You can watch our friends over at Rocky Mountain Pro, ICW Fight Club. It's got a ton of free content. You can also purchase and watch pay-per-views there. At our website, tappedOutWrestlingPodcast.com. If you love the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network, you want to hear more interviews, more shows, a great way to support the podcast network is going to our website, tappedOutWrestlingPodcast.com. There you will find an Amazon affiliate link. So how this works, anything that you would normally buy on Amazon, I bought a few things today because it was Amazon Prime Day, of course. I actually bought a Marvel fanny pack.
Nice.
Anyway, click on the Amazon link, buy everything that you would normally buy on Amazon, groceries, Marvel fanny packs, wrestling t-shirts, whatever it is, and you don't have to pay a penny extra for it. What they do is Amazon kicks us a little bit of commission for driving traffic to their site. Finally, you can find the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network official merchandise at ProWrestlingTees.com. Search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network in the search bar. Well, we've come to the end of our journey. I'm going to let you do the honors, Cam. What time is it?
Man, legend, it is time to tap out.